The third topic that we think non-insurance coverage lawyers need to be aware of is coverage for governmental investigations. If there's one area we get passionate about where we feel that there may be some miscommunications as to what's covered and what's not covered, that area would be governmental investigations. It's very important for folks to understand that these types of claims, as a general rule, are covered. Now, there are some issues. Some of those issues are timing of the claim. For example, any different governmental agency could be taking a look at your company for whatever reason. Let's say they send you a letter. You get that letter. First thing you do is you hire counsel, because it's serious stuff. You need to have defense counsel to understand, how are we going to deal with the SEC? How are we going to deal with FinCEN? What's the proper thing to do? Now, the proper thing to do most times is to work with the government, of course. If you work with the government, you're likely to get better treatment. You're likely to get more fair treatment. So the last thing a defense counsel would tell you is you don't want to fight the government. It's just unnecessary. These things can usually be resolved, and they can certainly be resolved in a better manner if you work with the government. So the reaction of a company then, rightly so, is hire defense counsel, get the government all the documents they need. Now the problem is these cases are front-end loaded. They've got a lot of cost associated with it. Sometimes you'll have to go into foreign subsidiaries and get documents. Sometimes you'll have to find hundreds of thousands of documents and go through them, call them out, pull out privilege. At the end of the day, it's like being in a major lawsuit, but the lawsuit hasn't even started. So you're spending that kind of money, tens of millions of dollars sometimes, early on to get the government what the government needs. We found that a lot of times that stage, which is the early stage, is not fully comprehended by corporations as far as what they should do with insurance. As defense counsel, because I'm talking to other lawyers here, as defense counsel, you need to be aware that as soon as you start billing your client, you need to start thinking about insurance. And the reason is because every penny you spend before you think about insurance, maybe a penny your client doesn't get back. That's the big reason why we get real passionate about governmental investigations. A, they're big. There's a lot going on right now, and they're very expensive. And B, we think some errors are being made by counsel and clients just because they're not aware of the fact that, as a general rule, these types of governmental investigations are covered. Where are they covered? They're generally covered under D&O insurance policies. So I mentioned there's a couple areas where you can get in trouble. The biggest is notice of a claim. You need to be aware of that. Now, I say that not because there's a simple solution. There's no simple solution to this. As soon as you get involved in a governmental investigation, you need to have somebody take a deep dive, thoroughly evaluate the insurance policies. You need to determine when something becomes a claim. I mean, there's case law out there that an informal investigation is a claim, a letter's a claim, sometimes a subpoena's a claim, sometimes a lawsuit's a claim. You need to understand how your insurance policy functions. But let me just do the boring part here, case law. There's a lot of case law on this. You need to be aware that as a general rule, these things are covered. Let me give you a few quotations, case citations. The ProMedica Health case, FTC investigation was covered. And we'll give the citations for these on the screen here. MBIA versus Federal Insurance. SEC oral request for documents was covered. That's an oral request. Better yet, it's a Second Circuit, a very influential circuit. Third, Polycom versus Crum and Forrester. That's an Eighth Circuit case. Again, an influential decision. That case held that in a criminal matter, the grand jury subpoena was found to be a covered claim. So again, criminal matters covered, grand jury subpoenas. And last, the Nelson Automotive Group case, that found an attorney general investigation by a state was covered. So governmental investigation, first thing you should think is, it's covered, what do I need to do? Second thing you need to think about is, how complicated is it? Is it something that I'm going to be able to handle myself, or is it something that I need coverage counsel for? One of the areas where we've seen a lot of mistakes being made, perhaps more than any other area, is when to tender an insurance claim to the carrier. There's no simple rules on this. You have to understand the policy, and you have to be very, very careful about what you do.